Hi, everybody. Coming up on 6:44 right now. Please let me know that this is coming through loud and clear. We'll get this conversation going as we track this tornado outbreak that has been so devastating back through Mississippi and Alabama, Arkansas, and Missouri. We have had over a dozen lives lost in this tornado outbreak so far, and it continues into the overnight hours, pushing into Georgia around midnight and then into the Carolinas as we go into the midnight through 5 a.m. time frame. So I'll be watching it every step of the way. I want to let you know what I'm watching right now. If you can, let me know that it's coming through. Got you, Matthew. Thank you. Gaffney is hearing me right now. Thank you guys for joining on. If you will also do so, please tag a friend in the comment section. And then that little arrow right there, please share this with your family and friends. Let them know in your timeline that you're watching this as well. That'll help more people get on this, and we'll be able to see. I've got live Doppler up. We've got a tornado watch that was just issued for part of North Carolina. As this gets closer and closer to our area, we're going to see a tornado watch be issued for most of the area, in my opinion here. So let's get right to it as we track this, and I will be live with you through the overnight hours. I'll be heading into the studios. I'll be dressed up a little bit more in a suit and tie, but we will be watching this on TV for you and online. So rest assured that as you continue the overnight hours and get into your bedtime routines, that we will be watching this for you every step of the way. So what's happening right now on Doppler radar? We've got a few confirmed tornadoes that have been on the ground. Just a dangerous situation here toward Mississippi and Alabama. We've had a long day of tornadoes. In fact, several touchdowns here from this one cell. This has been one mean supercell that has touched down several times northwest of Tuscaloosa, but more in particular here just in the past hour and a half, northeast of Tuscaloosa. This would be north of Sipsey. This is a storm report. Fire department rescue crews, numerous reports of trees down, some on houses. Had another report right here in the same county. 911 calls. There's been several of those. Several houses with significant damages and injuries on Campbell-Belleville Road, northeast of Sipsey. Tornado debris signature was observed on the radar at that time. So that appears to be, unfortunately, some injuries and not woods, not pastures, but unfortunately a populated area there in Sipsey, Alabama, which is north of Birmingham here. And ongoing right now, there are two cells that are moving through these areas that our radar indicated that same supercell back up this way. And as we turn on velocity, we can see what's happening in this neck of the woods. Let's check out our radar, see if there's a better one that has some closer access to it. Huntsville looks to be a good one. We'll be able to see a different side of that storm as these two are supercells moving toward the north. We've got another one that is very close to Chattanooga, another one in Crossville, Tennessee, as this area is primed up, ready to go in eastern Tennessee, like Knoxville. Now, what this is doing is it's moving east and northeast. So we'll get some of this action to roll on through here in East Tennessee and then eventually western North Carolina. This tornado watch includes Cherokee County, North Carolina, up through parts of Macon County, North Carolina. This watch goes for until 1 a.m. for these locations of Tennessee. Cherokee County is the only county so far included in North Carolina. But watching that closely as conditions are becoming more favorable for tornadoes in this area. I do expect, and in fact, the National Weather Service Storm Prediction Center indicating the next tornado watch will include the Atlanta metro area, and we'll see how far or how big that watch is. You'll probably see one drawn like this, maybe includes Athens. But then they'll have to catch up with a smaller box up here because I do expect almost all of us to go into a tornado watch at some point as we go into the evening hours. So we got to watch that threat closely. Where does that tornado watch issued? Where does it take hold? And what are we going to see here? 3,000 of you are watching right now wondering what's going to happen here across the Western Carolinas and Northeast Georgia. And I'm so grateful you're trusting us with that information. I've got the radar. I wanted to start with that, kind of pull out and show you what's happening here is this mess is moving toward the east. And unfortunately, as it does, our area is going to be primed up for that potential. So that hot spot area, you're seeing those storms kind of entering that edge of the hot spot area, and then they're going to try to move east. So next up would be between now and say 10 o'clock, this activity moving out of Alabama into Georgia, and then from Georgia into the Carolinas. And we do have a high risk for some of that activity to make it into the Carolinas. As we look specifically at the tornado outlook, there is a hatched area, which means there's a high risk for not only tornadoes, but for strong tornadoes. It could be EF2 in strength or greater. So that's the concern here as we head into the overnight hours, that this activity holds together. And some of those supercells that I've been showing you on this radar, that again, if I pull up, are in that sector that was oh so dangerous, form in that supercell environment and then move out. Then I'm also watching some of this activity back here through Metro Atlanta. So you turn on Peachtree City's radar. Some of this activity bears watching. I mean, right now, they're nothing more than just some isolated storms near Milledgeville, Athens. But again, these are in an environment that is quite spicy, all right, if we're being honest. There's GSP's radar. Let's turn that on. And we have our very own Doppler at WYFF, so when we're on TV covering this, we get that data instantly, which is so key, so crucial to us knowing what's going to happen and when. But I can tell you right now that this activity back toward the west is going to move toward the east, and here's the time frame in which it does so. I'm going to start wide, then I'll zoom in and give you a closer idea of what we can expect. Let me know in the comments section where you're watching from right now. Please share this with your family and friends. I've got the chat up. I'm going to answer your questions here in just a few minutes, but you see that little arrow button right there? Go ahead and hit share on that, and that'll share it with your feed on your Facebook. More people can see this, more people will know, and I'll be able to see where you're watching from right now. And if you're new to this channel, maybe you stumbled upon us through your algorithm or your homepage, I'd invite you to follow us here. Subscribe on YouTube to the WYFF YouTube page, and follow us on Facebook, as we're going to keep you posted. Any kind of watch, any kind of warning that's issued, we'll let you know about it, and we'll be on TV. So what you see on TV will be that live coverage from Live Super Doppler 4, and we'll have you covered around the clock tonight. No sleep for the meteorologists tonight across the South, and that's okay, folks. That's what we do. That's why we got into this, was be able to help people on days like this. Here we are at 8 p.m. All is relatively calm across Georgia and the Carolinas, but there's some rain that tries to move in. And these cells right here, 7, 8 o'clock, right now in the next hour or two, we'll have to watch for. Then this thing's about a waiting game. 10 o'clock, it's still in Birmingham. 11 o'clock, it's crossing over into North Georgia. And then by midnight, these are some squirrely looking cells that we'll have to watch. Does it survive? Is it a nocturnal thing? Do we get some of this activity to stay with us into the overnight hours? And if so, does it produce a supercell tornado in Atlanta? Unfortunately, the conditions are so that in Atlanta Metro, in Greenville, westbound, the conditions are there that even if we do get a tornado, it could be on the strong side. And the National Weather Service highlighting that threat for Atlanta Metro through North Georgia, really Clemson, Seneca, westbound, that line kind of right in there, for the potential that it could be a strong tornado if it does form. Nonetheless, here we are at 1 a.m., here's 2 a.m., here's 3 a.m. So it's really not until 3 a.m. that the bulk of this line starts rolling toward GMU for Greenville, Clemson, Anderson. So it's kicking off at about 3, and then we're just off to the races, 3 to 4 to 5. Now, one would think the leading edge of this would probably be the most severe, but we got to watch for some of this activity in the south. Does that ride up and into parts of the southern part of the upstate at 6 a.m.? Meaning your day starts at 3 a.m. and you're hard to go back to sleep because it's just rocking and rolling across the area. Certainly very possible. And for those of you watching in South Georgia, maybe you got family or friends right now, even the panhandle of Florida, we could get some risk for severe weather. And back to our map here, if we're looking specifically at the tornado risk, it's a high risk from Panama City back toward the west. In fact, it's a very high risk. In fact, there's a hatched area from Panama City over, meaning if there is a tornado here, it could be an EF2 or stronger. I see Spartanburg's watching right now. We got Boiling Springs, Pickens watching right now. So there's a look kind of wide. Let's finish this thing off wide, then I'll zoom in. By 8 o'clock, the entire upstate Western Carolinas, we're done. It's over with. It's now Charlotte, Columbia, Myrtle Beach, Orangeburg, Charleston, Hilton Head Island, and Savannah through the afternoon hours. Let's look in closer, then I'll get into some of the parameters on both wide looks and big looks here. Here's some of that squirrely activity over North Georgia the model's picking up on right now. But as we move forward here, we're going to see this activity begin to pick on up. And here we are at midnight. Here we are at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. So we're looking at about a 3 a.m. arrival time for Pickens and Oconee, maybe between 2 and 3 for Clemson and Anderson. There's going to be about 2 hours of waiting this thing out. And then here we are at 5 a.m. This thing's really crossing into the area. Heavy rain with maybe an embedded strong wind. Are there some supercells in this? Possibly. Best chance of that would be across Stevens County, Franklin County, Elbert County, Georgia, into Abbeville, Greenwood County. Here we are, a couple of signatures here at 6 a.m. that look squirrely across the area. And moving off toward the east between 6 and 7. Again, not out of the woods 100% yet, but getting there. And then by 8 a.m., we're looking a little bit better across the area. And by 9, certainly all of the Western Carolinas are free and clear of any severe threat. Let's look specifically at the severe parameters here. What are we looking at for Cape? That's first and foremost the fuel that you need for these thunderstorms. We did get a lot warm and unstable here during the evening hours here. By the time we get to tonight, models here not buying a whole lot of instability here across the upstate. Plenty of it down toward the south. But we do have a tremendous amount of updraft, which is the wind energy in the atmosphere. So you really don't need a lot of instability when you got plenty of wind energy. The winds above us are just cranking, as you see by these bright red colors. So another thing I look at is kind of that combination. Where do we have the ingredients for tornadoes? Well, tonight looks like that's going to be greatest south and west of Atlanta. And then as this thing moves into our area, what's it doing? Well, I'm seeing some 1s, some 2s in here, but it's not till later. Not till later. Let's look at the NAM model. This would be the latest high-resolution NAM model as this thing pushes on through. So that's the way things are shaping up right there. Let's look at the NAM's reflectivity. It goes into tonight. This thing's arriving here raggedly at about 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, and then it's pushing out. So, it's one of those situations where we're going to have to watch this thing really closely here. What does it do once it arrives, and what do those parameters look like? Well, there's plenty of helicity tracks back toward the west, meaning that these tornadoes that try to form, let me zoom out a little bit. Where is it? There we go, U.S. Southeast. Look at this. That's a swarm of possible tornadoes. How many of them hold on and cross into Georgia and then cross into the Carolinas? That's going to be the question here as we watch this roll on through. What kind of integrity are these storms still dealing with in the atmosphere? Does things get just kind of worked over? We got a brand new NATO cast. This is kind of a hybrid high-resolution model with AI helping out, and it kind of corrects itself based on what's going on. It shows the highest risk for any kind of tornadic activity would be Atlanta westbound, including that hatched area, which means chance of EF2 or greater. But then it does have this little notch, which I agree with, and I like how the notch is drawn here better than on the Storm Prediction Center's map, which you can see right here. It's more of a straight line. They don't end like that, but it's more of a colored in little effect right here, because I think the upstate, especially the northern part of the upstate, has a better chance of this trying to hold together, because right here's that core, and these things are just traveling northeast. So if they hold together, those same supercells that were responsible for tornadic activity back toward the west would inevitably try to move east. And that's what we have right now on the radar as we're watching this very closely, is a very dire situation where if we're mapping this out in Birmingham and surrounding areas, it is just a rough evening taking shape here, where there have been several confirmed tornadoes on the ground, and then watching what this does into the evening hours is going to be key. This was a tornado-warned cell that's moving toward Huntsville. There are several of these up through Tennessee, and what happens and when with that is going to be key. Looks like this line is trying to kind of get its act together down to the south. What does this do in southern Alabama as it moves through Selma, Montgomery? And what do these bad boys do? These are discrete cells. These are getting a little bit stronger. Let's, in fact, tap into a radar that's a little closer to that. Logging into this one here, and let's put play on it. These are discrete cells near Tallahassee, Alabama. And no, I didn't say that right. Tallahassee? Somebody's on here is going to know that. Near Columbus, Georgia. Let's just say that. So just west of Columbus, Georgia, you got 4, 5, 6 supercell, mini supercells trying to do right here. Same thing west of Atlanta. What do these supercells out ahead of the main line do? Because at this time, we have one tornado warning in Alabama. There has been some damage. Unfortunately, looks like some injuries here northwest of Birmingham. But at this time, that's where things are shaping up. We do have this new tornado watch that does get all of East Tennessee and Cherokee County, North Carolina. That goes until 1 a.m. And soon there will be one issued for the Atlanta area. And then we'll be looking out at what comes from there. So right now, folks, if you're just now tuning in, we're looking at a tornado outbreak that's underway right now in Alabama and parts of Mississippi into Tennessee. It's going to try to shift into the Georgia area and then into the Carolinas as we go into the overnight hours. But how much fuel does it have to work with? That's what we're going to be watching here. The time frame for any threats across the western Carolinas, the upstate, and to northeast Georgia would be midnight through 5 a.m. Townville, South Carolina. Townville, South Carolina, right now you're on the medium to high risk of severe weather, including gusty winds, but also you could have an isolated tornado tonight. I'm going to be watching it. I'm going to be watching it all night long for you folks and let you know when things get a little bit dicey. Let's turn on the comment section. Got to scoot over. For some reason, my camera goes a little sideways when that happens, but here we go. Landing in Atlanta at 5:45, then flying in a GSP at 9:30. Super nervous. Yeah, they know to avoid these things. They probably won't fly through it. They'll go around it. So you should have no problem landing in Atlanta. They'll just have to let it get out of there. And probably by the time you get to 9:30, you should be able to land in Greenville. These are coming on just as fast as I can read them. Hill Walhalla, 6 Mile, Greenwood. Can I scroll? I don't think I can scroll. Man, they're just popping on here. Hartwell, Georgia. Aner, South Carolina. Boiling Springs. What about Gray Court? Gray Court's timing about 3 a.m. for the worst of it. Westminster, Pickens. So it's actually better for the system to come through Georgia. Certainly very close to that. Very, very interesting as we're watching this out of Alabama. Been a rough day, especially northwest of Alabama. Got some reports of some damage in some of those areas. Kendall, you're very welcome. Hendersonville's watching. 2, 3, 4 a.m. would be our time frame for Hendersonville. Fountain Inn. We've got Seneca watching right now. As we're watching the environment very, very closely. Just watching some of the footage out of Birmingham and surrounding areas. We're going to be watching this in the Atlanta metro area next. Where does it go after that? It comes into the Carolinas. Some of those supercells, little miniature discrete cells, as I'm watching them on Doppler radar right now, are very interesting, to say the least, of where they're looking at right now. And you can see that as we're looking at the radar back toward the west over parts of Alabama. In fact, that warning just expired. There exactly are at this time, 7:02 p.m., no tornado warnings in Alabama. There are certainly some cells that are problematic and concerning down here. But you get into Montgomery and then you get into closer to the Georgia state line. These cells are going to need to be watched. They're already looking a little squirrely here for Alexander City, Union Springs. All right, so we'll have to watch that as it goes into Georgia. And then honestly, these over here toward Atlanta Metro. As I turn on that radar, I mean, these got some signatures that are worth watching. Turn on the velocity. Nothing really to write home about at all. They're little babies right now. But they're worth watching here in the next little bit. Same story with this activity back toward Eatonton, Lake Oconee. That would move north into Athens, Commerce, then eventually Toccoa. So that's why I say, we can't rule something out as early as, say, 11 o'clock. Midnight's the time frame I'm telling you that the bigger stuff tries to roll in here. And we're just have to watch it. We're just have to watch where this goes, what it looks like when it comes through here and for your town. So again, folks, if you're watching right now, let me know where you're watching from. I'll kind of do a reset here and re-rack my graphics. That way I can give you another full update. As a lot of you are watching right now as we're tracking this cell and these storms that are rolling through. So do a reset for me too. Let me know where you're watching from. And if I didn't get your question, please reset it. Chris Arnold says, Chris, as always, thank you for your service to the community. You're a real blessing. Chris, thank you for your kind words. So appreciate that. Wind is picking up in Gaffney. Sure, Jen. It got windy and somewhat muggy out there today. We got Lake Lure watching in the house right now. Very close to, a 20-degree warm-up from about 1 p.m. to about 4 p.m. today. Got really muggy and kind of eerie out with as windy as it is. So we're watching this activity back toward the west. So doing a reset here, folks. I'm going to re-rack my graphics here. Just so you know, I will be in the studio here all night long. I'm going to put on a suit and tie, and I'll be on at WYFF4. So, as you think about heading to bed, make sure you check back in during the 11 o'clock broadcast tonight, because that'll be your best way of knowing the latest information. Can you go to bed for a couple of hours and know that I'm going to be there watching it for you all night, and that should anything form, I will be letting you know. But you've got to have a way to receive those warnings. You got to have a way to basically check in and know that, okay, what's happening right now. So for our case, we got to watch this from midnight to about 5 a.m. As we're watching this roll on through. So simply put, we've had some large and violent tornadoes touch down Mississippi and Alabama today. One in particular just north of Alabama, getting some reports of some injuries and quite a bit of damage to homes here near Sipsey. As we move up toward the north right here, that same cell is sitting up here near Huntsville. It is not warned on right now. In fact, it's run into an area that's been worked over quite a bit. The only tornado warnings that are currently active as we speak are over East Tennessee. In fact, watching those closely for anybody that might be watching in East Tennessee, let's turn on Morristown. That might give us the best look, and it is. Are these cells right here? This one is a radar indicated, I believe. Yep. Radar indicated. You got a severe thunderstorm warning. Looks like they're going to let that continue as a severe thunderstorm warning. Strong winds for sure. Crossville, Tennessee, along the I-40 corridor near Cookeville. Kind of separates Nashville from Knoxville. And watching this for you folks watching right now in Pigeon Forge and Sevierville, Gatlinburg. There's nothing imminent around you, but you're right there on the edge of that tornado watch, which means conditions are favorable for tornadic activity. So that area will need to be watched closely as we move on forward. As you stretch over here toward Crossville, Fairfield Glade, Crab Orchard, there's active tornado warnings. And then down here, where we've had all the action today, there is currently no active tornado warnings in Alabama as we speak. Certainly a blessing there. Not to say the threat is over by any means, but right now there is currently no active tornado warnings. There is a tornado watch, so I query this one up if it'll work. There we go. It's a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch. It expires here, I believe, at 8 p.m. Central Time. So particularly dangerous situation tornado watch. Isolated wind gusts 75 miles per hour, scattered hail. Clusters of storms could be conducive for multiple intense and violent tornadoes in excess of EF2, meaning EF3 or EF4 plus are possible. So watching that closely here for Alabama, that PDS tornado watch in effect there as we watch this line press off toward the east. I do have brand new model guidance that just came in. Let me refresh it, give you the latest batch here, showing this activity that's over Alabama pushing east. So a long night here. By 10 o'clock, most of Birmingham still dealing with rough weather. At any time, that activity could shift over to rotating. And then this line continues to press off toward the east. By midnight, it's kind of leaning into Atlanta. It's leaning into North Georgia. Let me back that model up one more. And then by 3 a.m., it's leaning into Oconee County or Stevens County. It starts going like this, looking at it like that on my screen. But you see here that timing right in there. For Asheville, you're starting to get some rain, and then it's moving east between 3, 4, 5. For Forest City, Rutherfordton, Gaffney, Spartanburg, Lawrence, Ware Shoals, those areas will begin to see that roll on through. And then by 6 a.m., it's still rocking and rolling across the area. By 7, this thing's pulling away, and by 8, we're smooth sailing. All right, let's do that same model, but closer in. Well, first, let me show you the tornado tracks. Let me refresh this, see if it gives us a better one. I mean, just some violent ones. I mean, of what's yet to come. I mean, still a very, very dangerous night across Alabama into Georgia. What forms there? What holds together as it rolls on through? And how much does that move into the upstate? This model goes to 1 a.m., watching that very closely. So let me back that model up one more. It certainly dissipates over the Carolinas, weakens compared to where it was back to the west, but that threat is still there. Now let's get in closer here. For you folks that want to county by county look at this, I can do that as we back this thing up to precipitation. Here we are, this thing knocking on the door. You know, as early as, let's just see. Let's just go to the latest run, see how far I can get out with it. 1 a.m. is the closest I can get. So 1 a.m., there's Gainesville. I mean, this is a supercell right there. All right, there's Athens, Commerce in here. So 1 a.m., we're starting to get some interesting signatures. All right. All right, we're going to get back to 1 a.m. Flip it back here. There we go. All right, 1 a.m., 2, 3, 4, 5, Spartanburg, GSB, Greenwood, Lawrence, Anderson, Elberton. All these areas could be experiencing some sort of tornadic activity, all right? So we'll need to be watching that closely. Where does it hold together at? What's it looking like in those areas? Asheville's getting some solid rain. Forest City, parts of Rutherford County, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 o'clock. So, folks, this is a nighttime thing. Somebody says, I'm taking a Benadryl and sleeping in the hallway. Can't stand hearing the wind blowing and the rain and debris against my window. That's not a bad idea. Just make sure you have a way to wake up and receive those warnings should they be issued for your town. Austin asked a question. I've got a lot today. How does this system compare to the tornado outbreak of 2020 with Simpsonville? It doesn't. It's a different storm system, okay? But it certainly has some similarities with this coming in from Alabama and Mississippi. I'm in a mobile home. I'm going to get out. You know, that's certainly, I'm hearing that a lot too. Certainly a good idea to think about that as we look into that. You know, it's one night of the year, folks. If you have to get out of your home to be able to stay safe, RV, mobile home, it might be worth reaching out to a family and a family member or a friend, or staying in a hotel tonight. I mean, you can't do that all the time. We have thunderstorms. I get it. But tonight's one of those nights that's just a little bit more severe than a normal night. Linda asked about Tigerville. You know, your threat's in the medium category, certainly higher to your west, but you'll get into some feisty activity beginning as early as, say, 5 a.m. I should say that's kind of the peak. Probably as early as 2, 3 a.m. was when it's knocking on the door. Betty says, I'll be up with you. Yeah, Betty, we'll be on. I mean, I'll be doing these frequent updates throughout the night, so don't feel like you're going to bed and you don't have anybody else to talk to. I'll be on here. We can do this chat through the overnight hours as we're watching this. I'll just be at the studio, and all will be quiet here at my home, hopefully. And my wife will be watching for the kiddos' sake, and we'll get through this together, folks. These are rare to get this amount of severity of a storm, especially a nighttime tornado. Normally, we have daytime activity, and it's rare for us. It's been a few years since we've had this high of a nighttime threat. So I know that it can disrupt your church plans tomorrow, your sleep schedules. But again, folks, it's better to be safe when we have a situation like this. I'm hoping that this thing dissipates and we don't see it materialize as high of a threat here locally. But right now, the writing is on the wall for this to possibly be a dire night between midnight and 3 a.m. We'll know, and I'm going to be continuing to keep you up to date. I may say, hey, y'all can go on to bed, just have your phone on so that you can know when to wake back up. West side of Anderson, Clemson, we're talking, between 1 a.m. and 2 a.m., it's knocking on the door. You're not completely in the clear until, say, 4 a.m. Haywood County, North Carolina, you're probably looking at a medium threat for gusty winds, and the timing would be about between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. So watching that closely. Folks, again, I can't appreciate you enough for coming on here. So again, I'm watching I see the comments. So let me know where you're watching from in the comment section. Tag a friend that you know that you really want them to know about it. And then also hit that share button. That share button right there, what does it do? Lets you know to share it. So you can share it with your friends. So you can share it to a group. You can share it to a story. But the more eyeballs we can get on this activity, the better for TV purposes, to let the algorithms of Facebook show the warnings and the watches to as many people as possible. And I'll be able to keep you up to date. Folks, I'd appreciate your prayers. We got a long night ahead. Of course, I'm like you. I've got little ones and families. So, taking all the precautions that you are with making a plan for my family. Here's what you'll do if Dad says there's a tornado coming through Greenville. So I'd appreciate your prayers for my family, for my team at WYFF4. We're going to be on it for you. We're going to be watching it very closely. Griffin, Sydney, Perella, Dale, Victoria now on our team. We all care about what we do, and it's for all of us, it was a way to get into and help people about weather. There's the sunny and 70-degree days we love telling you about, but honestly, our jobs matter most when it's severe, because you need a trusted source that's not going to hype the weather for you, that's going to shoot you straight, and that's exactly what we do at WYFF4. We want you to know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, give you the tools for your family to make decisions, because, hey, are we going to Grandma, Grandpa's tonight? Are we going to stay in? Are we going to maybe just kind of hold tight instead of going out to dinner tonight? Well, in this case, it's a midnight through 5 a.m. time frame, and hopefully I'm giving you enough information. And folks, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to stay with you. We're going to have more updates throughout the evening and overnight hours, but we've got a couple of hours before this gets into our neck of the woods. What you'll see next will be a tornado watch. Don't let that alarm you. I expect it. I fully expect a tornado watch to be issued across the area, and what that's going to do for us is basically tell us, hey, conditions are favorable for a tornado, and we're next up for it, probably Metro Atlanta first, but we're next up for the tornado watch. Currently, there is only one tornado warning that is way back here to the south and west, near Laurel, Mississippi, Waynesboro, Alabama. No, that's still Mississippi. Heading towards Silas and Butler. I mean, that's why I tell you, the backside of the storm still can produce it. It's been a day of storms, and right in here needs to be watched. These little discrete cells here through Columbus will need to be watched, and then getting closer to Atlanta Metro, these guys. Turn the radar on for Peachtree. Let's just do a little tour here. I mean, these are little baby supercells. They're not doing much. You don't have as much fuel in this area of Atlanta quite yet, but Eatonton, Athens, just some rain. Same story for Rabun County. We're probably going to see some rain pick up. Don't let that startle you. But folks, what I'm trying to tell you here is it's going to be a long night. We're pacing ourselves here. This is going to be one of those situations where you're going to hear the rain. You're going to hear some wind. You may hear some rumbles of thunder, and you're still not done. The bulk of this storm, as I see it right now, for most of you watching, is going to be between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. And I'll be watching it for you. Folks, if it's bad, I'm going to get on here and tell you it's bad. Right now, I'm afraid it could be bad, but I'm optimistic. I'm praying that it's going to not be as bad for our area, and I'm telling you everything that's in my control to tell you. I'm giving you the data that's on the radar. I'm giving you the model data that says things could be a little spicy tonight. But right now, there's nothing to panic about. It's just being aware that this could be bad, and being ready to act if it does. So for my family, what that looks like, many of you are just like me and have young kids. We got a closet cleaned out. We've got a comforter laying in the floor because we have a 3-year-old, we have a 7-year-old, we have a 9-year-old. If I'm getting my 3-year-old out of her comfy bed and putting her in a closet, it dang well better be comfortable, right? She's going to be mad as a hornet. It's just making those steps ahead of time so you're not running around your house like I probably would be, or like my wife would be, looking for this or that. We have tablets in there in case it's a long time we're having to hang out in the closet. Coloring books, flashlights, and have some shoes nearby. If something does, God forbid, happen to your home, you don't want to be walking around with shrapnel everywhere. Your feet will get tore up. So having shoes near you, if you've got bicycle helmets, I mean, just staging them. You can clean this mess up tomorrow with a couple extra cups of coffee. I'm telling you, folks, it's one day, it's one night of our life to kind of just be aware. Bicycle helmets, shoes, some comforters, some blankets, some lanterns. Make it fun for the kids. I mean, for our older boys, they understand what's going on. For our 3-year-old, mom's waking her up for a sleepover in the closet for some odd reason. She's not gonna know, but we're gonna make it comfortable for her, make it cozy, so that it's not scaring the ever-loving Pete out of her. If you have a basement, crawl space, whatever your place is, try to make it prepared. Okay. And we're watching this closely. My prayers are out to the families of those impacted in Arkansas, Missouri, Mississippi, Tennessee, Alabama, Louisiana, even for that matter, that have had damage from wind and tornadoes today. I think I've seen the lives claimed as over a dozen right now from this outbreak. Folks, that's devastating. And we just had another tornado touchdown here north of Birmingham, and it apparently hit a neighborhood. So you got a lot of homes that were damaged in this. It's not, any tornado is bad, any tornado damage is bad, but when it touches down over a home like it did right here in Alabama, it's especially bad. Homes are damaged, people are entrapped. That happened just north of Birmingham here within the past hour or two. So my commitment is to keep you posted, folks, through the night. I'll be on with you here to let you know kind of an update what's going on. As I can tell you right now, there's no imminent threat. We're watching back through Atlanta, back through Alabama. I'll be on WYFF4 with you, the 11 o'clock news tonight. That's a great way to check back in just to kind of see how are things going, how are things behaving.